Welcome to the Denver Protest Podcast. It is Sunday, July 13th, 2025. I'm here with my co-hosts, Bug and Constant Gardner. What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Hey, not much going on today.
Sweet. Right on. I feel like that kind of sets the kind of tenor for the entire week. It was a quiet week, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in the Denver protest scene. I know we started out pretty busy this Monday with that big vigil, which I know that we've talked about. This is the third time we're talking about it, but it was a big deal. And Bug, I know you were there. Do you have some on-the-ground gumshoe style reporting for us?
Yeah, I agree with that intro kind of setting the tone for, not setting the tone, reflecting the tone of the week, because I feel like, excuse me, I feel like we started with a big splash with the visual, and then it wasn't as action-packed of a week as we've been having, which, to be fair, we've been having very action-packed weeks lately, so, take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, the vigil was excellent. It started at 3. I wasn't able to get there until later in the day, but I did end up staying until the end, which was around 8:30. So for people who were there the whole time, it was a long day, and it was a hot day. And I really have to give some kudos to the organizers and the musicians who were out there just making noise, making sure people had food and water. There was probably like 10 different organizations with booths set up of different ways to get connected. The Revolutionary Communists of America were there. Casa de Paz was there. House Key Action Network Denver, Aurora Unidos. I think people from CORE might have been there, the Colorado Rapid Response Network. But yeah.
And was it more well attended? I'm assuming it was more well attended than the average vigil that you've been to.
They estimated there were like 500 people there throughout the day. But there was a big crowd there, probably around dinner time after work, when people are able to get out to protest more. And for the musicians, when the musicians were playing, we had a lot of people just kind of gathered around.
That's awesome. That's great. Were there any keynote speakers, or because I know sometimes you mentioned that you're able to speak to some of the people in the facility via phone? Is that right? Did anything like that happen this time?
Yeah. I know there were some speakers through the beginning of the afternoon, and there were a couple of speakers while I was there, including Jocelyn from Aurora Unidos. But we also did get to hear from Jeanette Visguera from the phone.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. It was, I mean, it's always moving when she gets to speak, because, it's like we're talking to her from the inside of the prison that we're protesting outside of. But I think just the size of the crowd was really inspiring, and she seemed very emotionally affected by the show of support, which then affected the speech. And it was a very moving speech about how we need to continue coming together to fight the the mass detentions and the mass deportations, because it's ripping communities apart, it's ripping families apart, it's impacting futures, it's awful for the economic future. I mean, this isn't what she said. These are my words right here. But it's awful for the economic future of our country, because taking people out of their jobs, taking people out of their schools, it destroys lives, and that destroys, it destroys like income, and it's just a slippery slope back into the horrible situations that a lot of people come to this country to leave behind.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think there was a picket line you said that delayed a shift change. I see this in the show notes. So, what does that mean?
Oh, yeah. Um, like, they were like, well, we have all these people here. Anybody who wants to take part in some direct action, um, let's go ahead and picket. They picketed in the street. They picketed in front of the driveway. Um, and basically it just, it makes, those employees sit there and have to realize, like, you're a part of, harming these communities. So hopefully this message can get through to you a little bit, because if nobody goes to work for the private prisons, then they don't function as well, and then they can't function. And, well, a world without private prisons is a beautiful world, I think.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that too, that these are not they're not government employees. They work for the Geo Corporation, which we'll do probably a whole episode on at some point. But these people are not, it's not like, oh, this is a sweet federal job with sweet federal benefits. They work for a shitty corporation, and it's not the same as being a federal employee and all of like the protections and benefits that come with that. Although, that ship may have sailed, but for now it still is, a federal government job is one of the best jobs you can get. This is not one of those. This is just a shitty private prison. And I have heard from an attorney that goes there regularly that the people that work there are some of the most miserable people that he ever encountered. So I think it makes good sense to put the pressure on them and try to get some of them to quit and find a better job, because, like, yeah, we all gotta make it under capitalism, but, like, goddamn, you could do something less evil than working in a fucking private prison, my guy. So, like, get a new job.
There are very few things I would venture to say that you could do that would be more actively evil as just like a single person, like looking for, like, standard W-2 job. Like, I feel like that one, there's stuff that's more evil than that for sure. But like you were saying, there's a lot of room below that to do even something 10% less evil.
Seriously.
Yeah, there are options out there.
Yeah. So keep the pressure on them.
Absolutely do that. So was there anything else you wanted to talk about the vigil?
I think one of the great things was seeing how many different bands came together to perform and, like, dedicate their time.
We mentioned Korn was there. I didn't know they were still touring.
No, but speaking of, it sucks to call them like an older band, but, like, they've been around for more than 20 years. But the Flowbots closed the night out. They were the final band to go on. And the final song they played was Handlebars. And I tell you, I did not have seeing the Flowbots perform Handlebars live outside of a concentration camp on my 2025 bingo card. But it was amazing. It was a really, like, it was an amazing performance. But, like, I mean, so obviously, like, they're a local band that's, like, made it big. But then there was a group called Wheelchair Sports Camp, which was like rap, grunge, punk. Although they said they're not usually punk, but, like, it was the vibe. I was ready to start moshing in that. Like, I was ready. But the person who fronts that band is a disabled person who uses a wheelchair, and so, like, a lot of their music centers around, like, their experiences, navigating the world as a disabled person, and they go fucking hard. There's another group there called Iskali. I might have said that wrong. I'm sorry, but they are fronted by a Hispanic man, and all of their music was in Spanish and was just really, really great and really moving. Notes of Dissent was there. They played a couple of songs.
I was gonna ask. I
Yeah.
was actually gonna ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there.
And then
Okay,
there was
cool,
another like protest
nice.
band called Gora Gora Orchestra, and they were really fucking cool. Um, so it'd be cool to like see those groups like combine and just be an even bigger force for like sound. Um, there were uh there were two women earlier in the day. I wasn't there for this, but I saw it through the live stream. Um, who are Japanese and have personal ties to the Japanese internment here in Colorado and in the US as a whole. Um and so, so these camps are personal to them, and they did uh like a traditional like drumming. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But they had performed like 2 months ago at one of these vigils, and so it was really cool to see them come back, um, and continue being a part of the community.
Nice. Right on,
Yeah.
dude. So it sounds like it was a resounding, I don't know, success feels like an odd word to say, but it sounds like that there was a really good turnout and a good showing of support at this event.
Yeah, it was a great time, and I hope people continue to keep showing up. Um, it'll have passed by the time this comes out, but the next one is on the 14th, and that one's being hosted by DSA.
Woo!
Yep.
It's
Right on.
exciting.
Right on. All right, so that was the big one. We also had our kind of standard, as far as I'm aware, we had the overpass protests. I think we all met a person who's actually been attending at these overpass protests, which was really cool to meet someone who has actually gone out to those. Because yeah, I think those are cool and a fun thing to do, and relatively low barriers to entry, I guess. Depends on how you feel about standing on highway overpasses, I guess. But so those are still happening. We had the weekly protests, right? We had the Tesla takedowns. We had the standing events that occur at the Capitol every week. We had the Fox. Actually, I don't even know if the Fox thing is still going on. I'm gonna be totally honest about that. Do you guys know?
I think the Fox thing is happening. We did not have the Indigenous rights protest this week,
Oh, we didn't. Okay.
but that was for personal reasons, they said.
So we were talking. We also had this Paul Castaway action or event this Friday, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, on Friday there were about 30 people who went out to go protest in front of the District 4 police station down in Denver, um, which is the station where the cop responsible for killing Paul Castaway still works there. Despite the fact that he has a 3%er tattoo on the back of his hand, which is like, what the actual fuck, Denver? But yeah, that was organized by Denver communists, supported by Dasher, which is a medic focused organization, um, and also Freedom Road Socialist Organization and DACAC. Um, and then the family actually ended up hosting a second action on Saturday, which was the actual 10-year anniversary of Paul being murdered. And so that started out at Lincoln Park on Saturday night.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is another thing. Like, I feel like as I get more, I've lived in Denver for a while now, almost a decade. But I still feel like the longer I live here, like, and the more I get exposed to these kind of things, it's just like every time I look under a new rock, there's like more bullshit. And this is an example of one of those things that I personally, had not really heard too much about. I'd heard the name, but I wasn't too familiar with like the kind of surrounding context of the story. So I definitely think that this is one of those things where all the attention that can be given to it is a great thing, and to kind of keep the memory of that story alive. So that's great action. Anything else that we wanted to hit about past protests? I should say protests over the past week.
So this technically hasn't happened yet, but will be happening tomorrow as we're recording it, but will have happened yesterday as it's being released on Monday, the 14th. And this kind of ties into the episode as a whole of what we're doing. But General Strike US, the Colorado chapter, and the communists,
Jesus.
they're hosting an anti-Palantir protest tomorrow in the afternoon. And I think Palantir is this, really, really icky company, and we'll talk more about that. So it's nice to see more and more organizations planning actions around how shitty Palantir is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I thought that no, that's really cool to see people doing anti-Palantir shit, which I feel like that's as good of a point as any to talk about our main topic today, which is going to be Palantir. Here's the thing about Palantir. There's lots of things about them, but you could really do like an entire documentary length expose about them and not, I feel like, cover the entirety of the kind of bullshit that they're up to. So we're just kind of going to do a general parsing of like who they are, what they do, to kind of highlight the fact that they are located like in the middle of fucking Denver, which is crazy. Like one of the most, I would say, pound for pound, one of the most evil companies on Earth right now. They're trying the best to be one of the most evil to ever exist. It's like them and the fucking like East India Company way up there. But yeah, so we're going to talk about Palantir today. And this is another one of those things where, again, I had heard of Palantir. I did not know until they really started to become more present in the news and media and all those kind of places that they're basically doing like all of the bad things that you could imagine like a evil company in a sci-fi book or movie would do. They just, the degree to which they just basically check off the list of like, oh, here's another bad thing, we'll fund that. Here's another terrible thing that we'll, provide logistical support for. The list goes on and on. So, I mean, I can't really say enough about how fucked up it is that this company exists, which, I'm not fucking naive. They're probably going to exist, but they're fucking right here. One of the most evil companies in the world is based fucking smack downtown in the Tabor Center here in Denver, Colorado.
Next to the fucking Cheesecake Factory of all places.
It's next to a Cheesecake
Factory.
Hate
to see it.
If you want a vision of the future of the human race, picture an evil AI company's staffers going out the Cheesecake Factory after work. That's fucking what we're dealing with here, folks. So, and
not
this is
just an evil AI company, but an evil AI company that was named after a just blatantly like invasive surveillance like thing from one of the most like iconic fantasy series of all time. But
okay, so I'm glad that you mentioned that. I think that okay, so basically, for anyone who doesn't know, Palantir is basically like, without going too much into it, and also because I don't pretend to know too much about like the actual ins and outs of what it is they do, they're like an AI surveillance company. Basically, they're an AI tech company that develops algorithms for all types of different, I would say pretty seedy and awful, institutions, and uses the data that they collect to help these companies, or whether it's whether it's ICE, the IDF, CIA, all that kind of stuff, the Department of Defense, FBI, IRS. Like, it's basically what you think of if you think of like the nightmare, like scenarios for like what AI can do. It's founded by Peter Thiel, the fucking PayPal guy whose entire life purpose seems to be to find the most efficient way to turn poor people into fuel for his fucking cars. And then he names it after this bullshit from fucking Lord of the Rings. And like, cards on the table, I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy. I feel like a lot of folks are, and that's really cool. I know.
I don't know.
I know.
You go admitting
that. This is a very powerful arrow in my quiver that like it's actually fucking evil, because like they're taking the name from Lord of the Rings and bringing the evil thing into the fucking world and making it real. So it's fucking crazy.
Yeah. For those who don't know, a Palantir is what's called an all-seeing eye, and the person who can successfully wield the Palantir can see anything. Like, the only way to combat a Palantir is to have like incredible mental fortitude and be like always on, like be always prepared for the attack of the Palantir coming to try and invade, like, and see you. So very fucking evil shit.
Like they're not even trying to pretend they're not evil. They're like,
I know,
they're reveling in, they're rubbing the evil in our faces. Like, I didn't know that, guys. That's some dark shit.
Like, if you wanted to name your company after some, again, I say this with love, nerd shit, like, wouldn't you want to make it like the good nerd shit? Like, I don't even know like what the analog would be, but like some like positive fucking thing from these books or these stories, like to take like the thing that does evil and to be like, yeah, we're gonna make a company out of that, is just honestly, it's lazy by them. Like, they could have done better than this. But so yeah, it's founded by Peter Thiel, the PayPal guy, who is one of the most evil people on earth presently, and I would say probably he's up there, top 1,000 all time, probably most evil. And he gets his fucking his roommate from, I think it was Stanford Law, Alex Karp, to kind of be the CEO or like the functioning operator, the functioning head of this company. And if you ever look at videos of Alex Karp, he looks fucking insane. And I have a theory that Palantir, like the company, is like sucking his life force out, like a fucking reverse Dorian Gray situation. Where like by being in charge of this evil company, he just increasingly looks more and more deranged until he kind of looks like Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. Not to do a fucking Rick and Morty reference, but he doesn't look great. Is the point of the story. And this company was founded in 2003, so it's been around for over 20 years now, and it moved to Colorado in 2020 during COVID. But they are literally globe spanning. You know, like if you go to their fucking homepage, they have offices across the planet, and they just happen to be headquartered down here in the Tabor Center. So, but I don't know. Had you guys heard of this company before? Was this something that like you were like familiar with, or like what's your Palantir lore?
I have heard of it, and I knew that it was vaguely just a very evil company, part of like the whole U.S. defense contractor industrial complex. So I knew that it was evil, that it was an evil tech bro company, that it was had like a lot of very lucrative government contracts, and that they were /are contracted with the Israeli Defense Force as well. And that's about the extent of what I knew about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, that captures it pretty well, I think. Bug, what about you?
Yeah, I'd say my experience is like pretty similar. I kind of learned more and more about what they were doing in like the last like year and a half. But obviously they've been around since 2003, so that's 22 years. And I think a lot of people are only just now kind of having their eyes opened to what Palantir really does.
I agree, and it does seem like that. And I think there's something to do with like the kind of baseline cross-pollination that there is between the Trump administration and Palantir. Because I think it probably comes as a surprise to nobody that like people like Peter Thiel and people like Alex Karp are very pro an administration like the Donald Trump administration. Thiel donated millions of dollars to both Donald Trump's reelection campaign and JD Vance's stupid fucking Ohio Senate campaign. So like again, there's people who have done much more in-depth kind of parsings of this, but there is a lot of overlap between people who are on the board of Palantir, people who are investors in Palantir at very high levels, and people who are in the Trump administration, people who are in, as they say, the fucking corridors of power. And, this is a massive company. They're like in over $3 billion in revenue, and half of that comes from the fucking government. It's part of this whole kind of broader process. I think you were saying, Constantine, about like they do a lot of like defense with use that word in the kind of Orwellian sense that they tend to. But they have contracts with ICE. They have like multi-million-dollar contracts with ICE specifically to track migrants and like predict their patterns of like where they're going to go and to like keep surveillance tabs on them, basically. They have fucking they do things like predictive policing. Like it's shit straight out of fucking Minority Report, and not in like the cool Tom Cruise way. And they're like, this is actually fucking evil kind of way. They do shit. They're in fucking, you're probably not surprised to hear about this. They're in Ukraine. Alex Karp, he talks a lot about, he's very proud of being the first CEO of a U.S. company to visit Ukraine after the 2022 invasion. And, I'm sure that's a whole separate issue about how, that conflict is metabolized by people of our political affiliation, but they are there specifically. This is by their own mission to, quote, shorten the kill chain in the Russia-Ukraine war, basically making it making it easier for militaries to kill people of the opposing side. So all the evil shit you can imagine.
Yes. I don't know if you were planning on talking about it, but my understanding is that Trump just tapped them to compile surveillance data on all Americans too. So like, it's not just immigrants. That's sort of the... Well, I was telling them before we started recording today that I spent 25 minutes of my life watching a Glenn Greenwald YouTube video that I will not get that time back. But he was saying, this is similar to the time of the Patriot Act where, they are using... at the time when we had the Patriot Act passed, it was like, we know that these are very... broad measures of surveillance, but we're doing it for your own good. We're doing it for the benefit of the country to be able to, surveil terrorists. And then obviously that wasn't what they were doing. It's mainly been used as surveillance against American citizens. And so this is the same thing where they're couching it in like, oh, we're doing this for illegal immigration purposes because apparently that's popular among a ghoulish subset of our population here in this country. But that's what they're claiming that they're doing it. But no, they're doing it to compile data on all of us and track all of us. And so this is like recent in the last few months that they have been contracted to work with, I believe it was DHS, no surprise there, but also Health and Human Services, the IRS, and the CDC to compile data on all U.S. citizens and, immigrants from all of those agencies, which is bad.
It's bad. It's bad, and it's not good. If we,
it's bad and it's not good. Yeah.
As to say, no, and that's the thing. Like, it really feels like that the worst people that Silicon Valley ever produced. Which again, that's a fucking that puts them in the running for the worst people ever produced anywhere. They are trying to be the government. They are effectively trying to orchestrate a government by algorithm, like you were saying, because there's obviously this huge like defense component, and they're in with police departments, they're in with ICE, they're in with the Department of Defense, in with the FBI, but like you were saying, they're in with the IRS. They work with, again, fucking health insurance companies. They work with health insurance companies to create algorithms that will make it again, I'm not going to pretend how to know how this works. You know why? Because there's a fundamental misanthropy in these people who like know how to do computer this well and use it for such fucking evil purposes. And I don't have that, so I don't know how it fucking works. But they use these algorithms to help deny insurance coverage. So, and like you were saying, it's not going to get smaller. You know, they're not going to reverse or roll back. Like the levels to which Palantir or companies like Palantir are going to be increasingly dictating the fucking like every waking moment of people's lives is only going to get more dramatic. That's, I don't know, that's my take anyway. You guys might feel a different way, but like at one point, again, this Alex Karp guy, if you've never seen a picture of him, I would encourage you guys to look it up because he's a fucking no shots, weird looking guy. Actually, shots to him.
Shots.
Yeah.
Okay, you said in the show notes, maybe you don't want to say it here. I'll say it. He looks like a methed out Taika Waititi. That's exactly what he looks like. He looks like Taika Waititi's been smoking too much fucking methamphetamines, and that's, you know, yeah. I mean, it's not good, and and hopefully he gets uglier.
He does look a lot like Taika Waititi in like a really weird way. Like,
yeah,
like, what the fuck?
Not good. It's not good.
Things went downhill for him after Jojo Rabbit, apparently. But no. So at one point, this guy said, I don't think this is taken out of context. And you know what? Again, fuck him, even if it is. He said, bad times are very good for Palantir. Really kind of like a Rothschild-esque, like when there's blood in the street, buy property type beat. So yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly large company. They're worth more than Verizon. They're worth more than Disney. I think they're worth more than Ford. So it's not like, you know, it's just a couple of fucking nerds in their basement quoting Lord of the Rings and you know, hacking into people's computers. Like, this is one of the more powerful entities, which I think is like the point that we're trying to communicate. One of the more powerful entities in the world right now, one of the more powerful entities in the world doing incredibly heinous and evil shit on like a second by second basis is based in the goddamn Tabor Center at 1200 17th Street, Denver, Colorado. I'm just going to say this. If you work there, if you work at Palantir, and if there is a hell, you are going to it. And I say that with zero equivocation, because the shit that these people do and the shit that they make billions of dollars from and take billions of dollars from the federal government in this fucking country from is to, in large part, almost exclusive part, immiserate people. And in some instances, in a lot of instances, turn them into fucking hamburger meat. So they are evil in terms that it's difficult for me to fully encapsulate.
Agreed, 100%. And there's no excuse, dude. If you work for Palantir, you can go get a job at a slightly less evil tech company. So do that and stop being a piece of shit.
And that's the thing. Like, if you work at Palantir, especially at like the, you know, whatever fucking upper echelons of people who actually like create the code for whatever the fuck, I am willing to bet you are able to get a job pretty much anywhere else you want if you have that set of skills. Although ironically, you know, people who build AI might be building themselves out of an entire industry, but welcome to the fucking party, pal. Join the rest of us. But yeah, if you are at that level, you can work somewhere else, and you should work somewhere else, because what you're doing at Palantir is, again, with no equivocation, evil. And it should not be done. And the fact that it's being done here in Denver, you know, that's what we talk about shit in Denver that has to do with, like, you know, local national politics. And this may be like the single most salient or the single most, I don't want to say important, because that doesn't quite get the connotation that I'm trying to communicate, but like, it's just the idea that this company is so powerful. I feel like relatively under publicized. I do feel like since they've been so kind of publicly in bed with like the Trump administration, and the Trump administration is publicly in bed with them, they are in the news a little bit more. But I think operating relative to the amount of power that they have, relatively under the radar. So yeah, I don't know. We could, like I said, go super long on this whole thing, but the other thing that I do just want to quickly hit on before we, well, I'll say this. Representative Jason Crow from Colorado accepts Palantir donations. There was a demonstration against him doing that earlier. I didn't mention this at the top, but I do think that this is interesting that the CIA, and again, I learned this just through the course of reading about this shit, apparently has like a fucking investment firm arm called InQtel. Talk about dystopian name shit. And they were an angel investor in Palantir back in the early 2000s. So, and again, I don't want to make it seem like the Palantir has been around for a while. This isn't like new shit. Like Obama used them. Fucking Biden spoke positively about them when he was vice president in the Obama administration. So, it's fucking turtles all the way down, man. But like, they're evil. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. And they were founded in 2002, right when the Patriot Act was passed. So like they saw the writing on the wall. They saw that there was a lot of money to be made through fucking nasty authoritarian surveillance of American citizens, and they got in early on that. So yeah, they have been around and taking your tax dollars to surveil you and do fucking evil shit.
To surveil you and to do evil shit. And they're very present, as far as I understand, we mentioned the IDF in Gaza, where they, again, we talked about like kill chains, where they like assign a threat score to, and that's the terminology that they use as threat score, to Palestinians living in Gaza. There's, as I understand it, in certain instances when these algorithms or these threat scores are used, there's little to no human oversight. Not that would really make it so much better, but it is super dystopian. That's for fucking sure. And I heard someone describe it as like a live laboratory for this like offensive technology that you really don't have to make a huge leap of logic to imagine that type of shit being brought to a domestic arena.
Absolutely. That's a really important point, is that Palestine is effectively a laboratory for the most fucked up, authoritarian, oppressive tech and weapons of war. There is actually a great book about this. It's called The Palestine Laboratory by Anthony Lowenstein, and it's all about how this functions and how they use Palestine as a testing ground for drones and these fucking killer robot algorithms and all of that shit. It's definitely a documented fact, and this is no different. So you can expect that anything that they're using on the Palestinians will be deployed elsewhere, and yeah, likely right here at home. And you should care about that shit regardless, even if it weren't. Even if it were just Palestinians that were impacted by this, we should care, and it's really bad. But I just want to drive that home when people don't understand why a lot of the left focuses so much on Palestine. It's because it really is, the center, and it really is the breeding ground for all of this fucking horrible shit that these oppressive regimes use against their own people. So yeah, that's just an important thing to keep in mind. And I definitely recommend that book, The Palestine Laboratory.
I mean, it's like, yeah, just to echo exactly what you're saying, it's the fucking imperial boomerang. It's the Germans doing concentration camps in Namibia in 1900. It's the British doing concentration camps against the Boers in the early 20th century, and like eventually, like, I'm cribbing from like the Discourse on Colonialism by Amy Cesare, just the idea that like that shit will come back home to the metropole, like as soon as like the existing domestic tensions reach a certain point, like governments that do that kind of shit other places, which, make no mistake about it, the United States government is facilitating and aiding and abetting what is happening in fucking Gaza. I know that we all know that, but you can't really say it enough. They're not going to stop doing it in the event that they need to train their weapons and their algorithms on a domestic populace. So
yeah. Grim times.
That's where we're at with that. Anything else on Palantir? How do we feel?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably a lot more on Palantir. Oh, do we want to talk about Dawa?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Dawa, because Dawa has and this is a great segue into our upcoming protest. Dawa has a rally against Palantir scheduled for this upcoming Wednesday, July 16th at noon, which will be on the 17th Street side of the Tabor Center. And there have been several demonstrations against Palantir over the course of the past couple of months. I know at a minimum, which is really cool to see. But it's really great that there is this kind of groundswell of local support, realizing that, like, yeah, it's like the, comparison I think of is, how like IBM fucking, I don't know, made spreadsheets for the Nazis, which is a glib way of saying they basically facilitated all the information collecting that allowed so much of the Holocaust to happen. I don't think it's a huge leap to say that what's happening with what Palantir is doing, you can pretty easily draw an analogous comparison to that kind of shit. So it's great to see that people are coming out against that.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, Dawa, Denver Anti-War Action, came out with May 15th of this year a couple of demands for Palantir, demands of Palantir. One was cut ties with genocide, immediately cut ties with Israel, and cancel all contracts with the Israeli government. And two was end all contracts with governments and entities that use Palantir software to violate human rights, civil liberties, and constitutional rights. This includes, but is not limited to, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Defense, and the Internal Revenue Service. So that those are their demands, and they're encouraging all activist groups and individual activists to pressure Palantir to that end. Personally, I don't think that is going to happen. I mean, I think it's great. We do need to put this pressure on them, but like, this is a fucking evil, soulless corporation that was founded to do evil, ghoulish shit. So they're not, it may as well be in their mission statement. So yeah, they're not going to stop doing it, but I think, our goal should be to run them the fuck out of Denver. And there may be some movement happening towards that pretty soon here. A campaign may be started soon. That's all I'm going to say about it, but we will definitely provide updates as we get them on that. But yeah, definitely try to attend this upcoming action this week. That would be great.
Yeah, and you just mentioned like that it should be in their mission statement. You guys remember when Google's like company motto was "Don't be evil"? Which was saying that ever was. Palantir is basically like be evil.
Yeah.
That's
basically. Yeah, they have no problem being evil.
They sure don't. But yeah, shout out to Dawa for getting all of that together. And yeah, like you were saying, like even if the campaign to get Palantir out of I think that there's a lot that could be said about like the efficacy of like, is there any point to like protesting or boycotting or all that shit? And I think we all would agree emphatically yes, especially when something like this is in your immediate backyard. So
right, at the very least, they should feel very uncomfortable and unwelcome in the city of Denver. They should know that they are hated, and that we don't want them here. And I don't know that we as a city have done the best job of making that clear. So I think that should and will be a goal moving forward, is like, you are not wanted here, get the fuck out. And just make them, make it uncomfortable for them and make it miserable for them to work at the miserable company that they work at. It's probably the least we could do. So yeah.
And if you work in the Cheesecake Factory in the Tabor Center, spit in their food.
Yes, totally. Or, if they order one flavor of cheesecake, give them a different flavor. Give them the worst flavor of cheesecake. Give them the bad cheesecake
that nobody wants.
Give them stale bread, etc.
That
no active resistance too small.
That is praxis. Serving Palantir employees stale breadsticks at the Cheesecake Factory. That's fucking praxis, dude.
Yeah, do it.
All right, what do we got coming up? we mentioned Dawa. What else we have coming down the pipe for the week ahead?
There's what should be a fairly large protest, hopefully, on the 17th. The Good Trouble Lives On John Lewis Memorial event that is being organized by 5051. At least locally, is being organized by 5051. Polrev, PSL, FRSO. Notes of Dissent is going to be there again, which is cool. And also at the same time, that's at 5 p.m. on Thursday at Lincoln Memorial Park, which is the little park that's just right across Lincoln from the state capitol. It's just the same place where the fair was the last time, and they're going to have another fair, but there will be a march actually run by 5051 this time.
I'm so glad that you said where that is, because I'm going to be completely honest with you. For the longest time, like I said, I've lived here for almost 10 years, I had no idea that park had an actual name. I just refer to it all as the Capitol. So that's good to know.
Yeah, it's all Civic Center Park in my brain.
Exactly, yes.
But not legally, which, constraints of the modern world. But at the same time as that event, there will be another Rise and Represent event happening at the Capitol. So this one is specifically calling for action against the big ugly bill, which is an unfortunate reality we now have to face.
Did we already talk about the July 14th anti-Palantir rally? We talked about that at the beginning, or did we not talk about that?
I did briefly mention it. It will have already happened by the time this comes out.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, everyone. My brain, I'm not firing on all cylinders. Yeah, there is one tomorrow, but yeah, by the time you guys hear this, it will have already passed. So hopefully it went well.
Yes.
By the time you hear this. Sorry to derail. Continue.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Thank you for catching that, because it's easy to, with all the events we have, it's really easy to forget stuff. I literally have a list in front of me of our 5 weekly protests. I'm not sure if the same group that will be doing the Rise and Represent event on Thursday also runs the Saturday events that are weekly at the Capitol for Indigenous rights and missing and murdered Indigenous women. And so I don't know if they will be out on Saturday, because it's kind of hard, as a lot of us know. It's hard to go back to back like that. You need time to rest after a big protest. But I'll keep my eye out on the Reddit for if they announce a cancellation. But also on Saturdays, we have the weekly peace vigil that happens for Palestine by CD7 Watermelon at the 5250 Wadsworth Bypass, and that's at 10 a.m. on Saturdays. We have the Tesla takedowns, which are happening in Littleton from 11 to 1 and Loveland from 9 to 11. And then we have the Fox takedowns, which are happening at 1 p.m. And those are outside the KDVR station downtown. And then we have every week, as we have talked about extensively now, we have the All Out for Jeanette visuals on Monday nights from 6 to 8 at 3130 North Oakland Street, which is the GEO facility where they are holding way too many of our community members for no reason that is justifiable to most people with a heart. But that's why we show up and we fight. And that kind of does it for protests for this upcoming week. Coming up next week on Tuesday, July 22nd, there is a medical debt workshop, which is it's an awareness of how the laws in Colorado work kind of what rights you're entitled to when it comes to hospitals and doctors coming after you for medical debts. Provides resources for people who are in medical debt or who just want to be prepared for, the inevitable, because we're all just, one slip on the ice, one missed stare, one car crash away from just fucking massive piles of debt with the way healthcare works in this country. So that'll be on July 22nd at, I think it's 6:30 p.m., but we don't actually have the time written in here. But I really encourage everyone to check that out. We'll have the link to the sign up in the show notes.
Yes. And yeah, as someone who, I'm sure there's, almost everyone has medical debt stories, but yeah, as someone who has dealt with medical debt, thousands of dollars of medical debt, there are things that I desperately wish I had known before that experience. So I will say that even like you were saying, Bug, even if you yourself don't currently have medical debt, it is very valuable information to have in your back pocket, because the thing that you don't want to do after a fucking health crisis is deal with thousands of dollars in medical debt. But you know what? You live in this country under this healthcare regime, so you're fucking going to, most likely. So it's good to have the information at your disposal for what to do and how to make it hopefully ruin your life even 10% less. So yeah, those are upcoming events. I think that's pretty much it, folks. What do we think?
I think that about does it. I'm planning on being at the DSA tent on the 17th. So if you want to stop by and say hi, talk to me about DSA, or, come throw rotten vegetables at me because you hate me, come do that. Everybody's welcome. Come say hey. I'm planning on being there for the whole time. We'll see. But yeah.
So, you have to supply your own vegetables, though.
Yeah, you do have to supply your own vegetables. I'm not going to bring them for you, but if you, whatever you want to do is cool. But yeah, come say hey at the DSA tent on the 17th. I will be there and hope to see you guys out in the streets this week.
Yeah, likewise. I think I'm probably going to be there handing out flyer for this new initiative that one of our community members is spearheading. And we're going to try to get information out to people. So I think I'll also be out there kind of in a more informative role versus a yelling in the streets kind of a role. Although I'm probably going to go still yelling.
Right. We'll do a little yelling in the streets, a little information sharing, a little of this, a little of that. We wear many hats.
Yeah. We have to build a coalition. I mean, we have to build a citywide coalition of everybody who can stomach working together. Because that is where our power lies.
Very accurate.
Yeah, the numbers that we can build. It's not, and I don't even mean inherently in a mass protest way. I mean in in an organizing and how many different actions we can take on and what kind of roles can we fill and whose lives can we make better because we bring on different kinds of people with different areas of expertise.
Hell yeah.
Well, and to that note, really quick, just to, make everything about the podcast, the music that you heard at the top of this episode and that will play as the outro was sourced by a member of the community. Shout out to my guy Surrealist. It's an absolute banger. I think it's spectacular.
We're so excited about our music, you guys. We're so excited. It really is, I think, above and beyond what we hoped for when we drop something in the Discord hey, who wants to make us a song? I mean, it really, they did just such a fantastic job. I'm so proud of it and happy and just love that people are collaborating. So should we, I guess we'll give our spiel. If you want to support the podcast, please follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. Don't leave us not a 5-star review, only 5 stars. Please. And we would love some comments on it. Share it with like 3 of your friends, please, or family members. And then make sure that you, if you're not already, subscribe to our subreddit, r/Denver protests. You can find a link to our Discord there. We're also on Threads and Instagram and Blue Sky, and definitely happening, maybe as of the time this airs, YouTube. So not like YouTube videos, but we'll put the podcast on YouTube because we're trying to get it in a million different places. So please follow us in all of those places. Give us nice reviews, leave us comments, bully your friends and family into listening to the show, because ultimately that's what we want. This is a labor of love. It's not about the money, which is good because we're not making any money. It is about just making sure that, we share information with the community and, uplift members of our community. So yeah, we would love your help doing that. And thank you so much for your support.
Hell yeah, man. I love it. All right, folks. I think that does it. Everyone have a great week. Great weekend. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.